So, in a development that the screenwriters probably couldn't have imagined, the President of the United States decides he needs to attack another country, Syria.
Right.
He decides to go to Congress, and it looks like Congress is going to say no, given a ballot with a choice between Assad and Obama. The House had trouble making up its mind. And then, like a miracle, Vladimir Putin saves him. What next?
Well, a miracle if you're Vladimir Putin, but a kind of a nightmare if you're Barack Obama. They've had a very rocky relationship. As you know, they haven't even really engaged in months. The president canceled a summit that he was going to have with President Putin in Moscow. And now, who knew that Vladimir Putin would come to his rescue? You know, the White House sees that really at first was confused and wasn't sure whether they were going to latch on to this, and then realized it was their last hope for saving face on a vote that was pretty destined to fail in Congress. And so now he gets to ride out the diplomatic
But do they really
track.
think that they can come to an agreement with Putin in Geneva, or Putin's people
No.
in Geneva? So
No.
this is just...
This
we're
is
gonna play
basically, yeah, I mean, if you're the president and you're looking at Congress, which wasn't going to give you the authorization to strike Syria, you needed an alternative. There were different bills floating around in Congress, different versions of a resolution where people wanted them to go back at the diplomatic track one last time. So if at the end of this, the result is, which most people in the White House expect, that it doesn't follow through, the president can say, I've exhausted all options here. There are some in the White House who think that the British Parliament could come back and vote, and that they would get a more favorable result this time. They think they could get a more of an international coalition, and there's some in the White House who believe that then when the president goes back to Congress saying, I've exhausted this diplomatic track, now we need to strike, that he would have a better chance of getting a vote. If you talk to people in Congress, they say that's really wishful thinking.
Carol, what is Putin's game in this? I always assumed that he was playing to his domestic audience by poking his finger in America's eye. Now he's playing to our domestic audience,
Right.
writing op-eds in our newspapers. What does he want to get out of this?
He's playing to our audience, but a global audience. You know, he is trying to reassert Russia on the world stage as a superpower and sees an opening here. And frankly, he has an opening because the White House needs him in this sense. And so what he was trying to do in his op-ed in the New York Times is, you know, assert himself as more of a statesman, as somebody who deserves to be at the table, not as somebody who's trying to, you know,
Right.
blow
John?
up the
And
table.
what signals will tell us whether they're serious? Are there things that they can do quickly, such as deprive Assad of access to his own chemical weapons, that will tell us that this is going to be productive?
In the op-ed, Putin says he doesn't think Assad used the chemical weapons. It was the opposition who used them. So I think I don't see how they get anything out of this other than just a whole lot of thumb twiddling.
A whole lot of thumb twiddling, a whole lot of delay, and from the Western perspective, you get to be able to say, we tried,
everything.
look at these people, we can't cut a deal with them, there's no other option.